Fantasy Six-Pack Hour with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Applegarth.
Hello, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me, as usual,
there it is.
We guessed
with me as usual, the old switcheroo.
You know why it does that? I figured out. Sorry, Mr. AJ Applegarth, right here to my right. If you're looking at the screen, down below, Dap Scout. What's going on, guys? But I know why it does it, AJ. It does it by order that you enter the room. You're always last, so you end up being last in line whenever it brings you up on the screen. It dawned on me why, because it doesn't matter which order I bring you on back into the room. You're always down.
Is this some kind of weak ploy to get me to be on time?
I'm just like, I mean, you could. That would just be an idea. But anyway. Yeah, because we've got Mike over here in the private chat yelling at me about I didn't even mean to do it this time. But anyway, all right, so we've got our last of our positional draft strategy preview shows today. What, you didn't like that, Dap?
Positional?
Sure.
Equal opportunity missionary.
Okay.
No, we're not doing this already. Anyway, our fantasy baseball.
Don't open yourself up if you're not looking
draft
to get
strategy. Whatever. Outfield. Let's do it. Before we get into that, though, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave those comments. We appreciate it. We love hearing from you. And of course, jump over to FantasySixPack.net. Become an all-access member. Your drafts are coming up. We know it. So get in there. Use our draft cheat sheet, which has been recently upgraded. We added 2 catcher leagues scoring for our points leagues drafts. For those of you that are in 2 catcher leagues, it gives a slight boost to catchers so that they actually show up on the draft sheet where you should probably draft them in 2 catcher leagues. Yep. Otherwise, they just sink because they don't score enough points. And then we added some other boosts to our category roto style cheat sheet. Got access to our rankings, which I just released, our my personal tiered rankings per position. And then thanks, AJ.
So to keep it all going, is that you just want to come on down to Fantasy Six Pack and become an all access member? You could join us on the Discord as well. And you can always find out if AJ actually will show up. So that's always a plus.
Discord, not so much. At least not recently, but maybe I'll.
The only time you don't want to use our rankings is when you're in a Fantasy Six Pack league with a bunch of Fantasy Six Pack analysts because they're all using the same rankings, and that gets a little tricky sometimes. But other than that, use it more.
Everybody keeps snaking everybody. What's going on?
The ultimate sniper room. That's the reason you zig while we're all zagging, or vice versa.
Who's our guest today, Joe?
Well, we've got something else first, and of course, we know your drafts are coming, right? You need to move. If you have not done so already, you got to move your leagues over to Fantrax. It is the absolute best place to play. Especially if you're in dynasty leagues, the player pool is massive. Their draft room got upgraded last year. It's phenomenal. All the players are color coded. There's an actual draft room and a board that you get to see on like some sites. Magical, right?
And if you're colorblind, they even do a raised lettering on the screen. It's amazing.
It's true.
Are you serious?
No, of course not. It's the screen.
I was like, what are you talking about? I thought maybe they did something special to make it. Anyway,
if you're colorblind, they wish you would use a touch screen because then you can just point to the color or name that you like.
There you go. Yep.
Anyway,
I love Fantrax. It's amazing. It's one of the most customizable things in the world.
And it's free.
The time I met my wife was Fantrax. I drafted her 3rd overall.
Oh yeah.
All right. But yeah, our guest this
Third
week,
overall, huh?
It was a dynasty league. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, our guest this week, bringing him in here, Brett Windich, co-founder of Skipper's View, and helps run the podcast over there that they've got, or at least one of them. Obviously writes over there. Follow him, Skipper's View. Brett, what's going on tonight, man?
Nothing much. Just got back home to the main lab. Actually at my partner's his laboratory, Dean, where he set me up and hooked me up with the mic tonight because I'm in town for a wedding this weekend. So fun stuff. Baseball, wedding season, got spring breakout, a lot going on.
Nice,
man. Yeah, so I think we're gonna get started here with we're doing outfield,
right?
But we've had a few weeks of spring training, so the injuries are starting to pile up. So we've got to touch on a few of those.
Yep.
And we're just gonna round through the room here, and then AJ, I'll let you lead the rest here.
Okay.
Just pick one of these guys, and obviously, if I've missed something, pick whoever you want. There's a lot of other injuries, I'm sure, but obviously the big ones are Garrett Cole. Aaron Judge got dinged up. Sounds like he might be back in the lineup on Sunday, though. Gosman's dealing with that shoulder fatigue, so who really knows what's going on there? Devin Williams is a big one, and then David Bednar is kind of up in the air about starting the year. We're not really sure there. So, Brett, we will let you go first. Who do you want to talk about out of this group?
Yeah, I guess I gotta complain. I'm a Yankees fan. Told you guys before the show. So Cole, Judge Cole, but Cole is devastating. He's the best pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. I think that the reigning Cy Young award he has to his name right now kind of backs that up. He's the most consistent pitcher, and just it's like the last thing the Yankees need. And it seems to happen every year. It's just massive injury right before the season. And now with the result of this, and he's out for 1 to 2 months.
At least,
which stinks. But I'm trying to optimist, those just doing the audio. I got my fingers crossed. There's no tear officially right now. I know he went to go get some MRIs in LA today. And I know he was meeting with the specialist, Dr. Neil Elatrosh. Don't know what's come about that yet. I think the Yankees are going to play that very close to the chest for right now. And, hopefully there's no tear and it's just a rehab and, he needs some rest. But what do you guys think about Cole? Do you think this is, and we talked about this on our show the other day. It's devastating.
Did you pull that doctor's name out of your memory or did you have it on your screen? Because that was impressive.
So I took a few notes before we came on, but
I
was listening to a podcast.
I was like, man, did you just pull that? I was like,
he knows the doctors.
I got very help with the audio earlier about pronouncing the name because it's a tough name.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would have butchered the heck out of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just jumping in to answer your question, I agree. This is definitely a huge blow. Cole is, first round pick in most leagues and formats. If he somehow falls to the second and falls to you at the second, if you already drafted before this news, you took him. I mean, it was a no-brainer pick. So just the consistency that he's had, really over his career, the past handful of years, he's just been so dominant, and this crushes, fantasy owners and Yankee fans alike, obviously. So, I'm disappointed about it. Thankfully, I don't own him anywhere yet. I've only done the fantasy 6-pack series draft so far, which me and Brett were back to back in. So I'm sure we'll have some conversation about that later as well. But yeah, I think, did he go before we drafted, or did he go to the 10? The 12. I was at the 10. You were 11. I thought
he would not have gone to the first round, AJ.
Well,
no.
To point some fun.
F6P series, he did.
Shouldn't have.
I'd
be shocked if he did.
I'll look it up and get back to it. But if either of you guys have comments on
what division are you in, AJ?
Tommy.
I'll look it up.
I was gonna say is
No, it's a huge blow. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, it hurts the whole team. But for fantasy, that's what we care about. I mean, out 1 to 2 months. Okay, maybe if that's the case, you drop him to like SP 40-ish. If you knew he was going to only be out 1 to 2 months, 1 month probably a top 20 pitcher still. 2 months probably a top 40 pitcher still. But it's like the at least that's like, oh, what do you mean at least?
Well, I think
you
also
mean this could be the whole season. I
think also the fact that we're talking about a long-term veteran here. I mean, it takes less time to ramp up. These kind of young gun type that only are 25 and they only have 85 innings on their arms or something like that. I'm a little less worried about Cole being able to go long and deep in games if his health is there, especially considering the Yankees need him so bad. I still pick Spencer Strider over him. No offense.
Actually, and Cole went at number 12 for you guys.
Yes, Cole was Cole was like 2 point first pick of second round in most of my drafts, or depending on if it was quality starts or not. But from a real world perspective, it's devastating. From a fantasy perspective, I mean, it's another Tuesday. It just seems like we're getting, it's like there seems to be so many darn injuries. It's not even funny. My biggest concern. So the Cole thing sucks. Obviously, Judge, you said, is coming back. If you are, this is the first time I'm ever going to say this on this show. I'm sorry. If you're playing in a saves only league, first off, what are you doing? And secondly, Devin Williams has got to be crushing you, because now they're talking about the Brewers are going to go to the hot, hand mode, which just absolutely destroys any chance of being like, oh, next guy up or whatever. So that to me is, trying to chase saves in this saves only league is got to be the most crushing kind of to this whole thing. I just don't know what you'd want to do there, because I ran into the same issue with Edwin Diaz last year when I was doing saves only, and it just kind of all fell apart because there's a run on closers. I got him in the 4th round. So yeah, I'm sorry about all those people drafted the closer.
Are we allowed to have a counter about that mentioning how he hates saves only leagues as much?
No, I mean, look, I don't.
Which counter will be higher at the end of the year?
I don't hate saves only leagues. I hate Kevin Biggio. And so that's
Ding.
Mark it down, Mike.
Got it.
It counts as 6.
That's the Kevin Biggio counter 1.
Put Schneider in. Stop putting Biggio. God, make it stop.
Change the header to Dap's Kevin Biggio counter for tonight as well.
Yeah, because that if we were counting the whole off season, he'd be at 50 by now, dude. Yeah, it's brutal. Devin Williams, that's a huge blow.
Thank you.
In saves only leagues, especially, you're right, Dap. It's because you paid such a premium for that, and now you're just. I mean, and I was with you, man. I had Diaz in a few leagues last year, like TGFBI, and it's hard to catch up. You've really got to just land a home run on the waiver wire, pay over. Now you're chasing saves. Right. You're like, I paid for saves in the draft and now I'm chasing saves. It was the whole reason why I paid up for them, is so I didn't have to spend half my fab budget on the next cool closer. Right. Now you're having to do both, and it just ruins your whole season, especially in these big tournament leagues where you just lost.
Hey, Brett, I just sorry, AJ, just real quick, Brett. Being a Yankees fan, I have a question for you, for the fantasy people watching, right? Are they going to go with an internal option here, or is there some young stud that people should be watching out for? Obviously, I know my own opinion, but is there some young stud that they should be looking out for and waiting to get late in the draft, maybe, if they're still drafting and they maybe went Cole early on?
So we're talking starting pitching then.
Yes.
So
Yep.
It looks like Clayton Beater is going to get that 5th option slot from everything I've seen thus far, but obviously I'm looking quickly at the Yankees prospects. I know Drew Thorpe obviously was Yankee, one of the guys considered that he might be, up here this year for the Yankees. Obviously he's now on the White Sox after that Cease trade, but I'm thinking that Will Warren maybe.
Ooh, okay.
We'll see. I don't know if he's going to be ready or not. He might be a guy, but outside of that, I don't know. Maybe Chase Hampton as well. It could be one of those two that they do for or do just long reliever.
Or
Yeah.
They're weird.
I was thinking you were going to say Blake Snell. I just was wondering if you were going to.
I predicted him to go to the Yankees like 3 times. I've had hot takes about it. I've been roasted by my guys about it because I said it last year. Then Dean, the guy I run Skipper's View with, he talked about this in an article, and then I was like, 3 weeks later, I was like, yeah, now I'm going to make it my hot take. He's going to be a Yankee next week, and it didn't happen again. And I just think that Cashman's sick of getting roasted on pitchers like this, and he's like refusing to pay. I think they go get Montgomery, if anything. That's the guy I think they go after.
Bring him back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, I think we're good here, and I just wanted to mention the Bednar real quick because obviously he's a later round pick, or was in F6P draft, but he's like fits the prototypical relief pitcher that I like to target personally because he's a guy, he's on a pretty bad team, but they're not going to blow teams out. They're going to be in these, games where they have save situations cropping up more often than not. So, I think that's a bit of a blow, but hopefully he can be back earlier. Definitely earlier than Williams. I mean, it sounds like he's out 3 months.
I'll tell you what, though, moves Chapman up a little bit more in those saves holes leagues because now he's going to be the guy for at least a little bit.
Yeah. So something to keep an eye on there. But yeah, let's kick this thing off and in the outfield and get going. All right. So our first question here for the outfield draft strategy is, according to our team here, Ronald Acuna should be ready to go by opening day. Sorry, according to Atlanta, the team there. Does his injury though alter how
you got him, Dap?
Didn't mean to.
That wasn't even on purpose.
That was unintentional.
It wasn't. But I did not read these clearly before the show. So all right. So Acuna should be ready to go by opening day. But Brett, we'll start with you. Does this does this injury alter how you're drafting him? Are you still taking him 101? Or if you draft him, are you taking an extra outfield for your bench, earlier than you normally would? How are you handling the Acuna situation?
Yeah, great question. I think that's a 2-part way to look at it too. And so number one, I'll answer the second part first. Outfield is just down this year. I don't think there's as many quality outfielders as normal. So I'm just grabbing outfielders wherever and whenever this year compared to other. I think third base is deeper than usual. Shortstop, you guys saw, I drafted Tim Anderson in the 28th round, and I'm okay with starting that for right now.
Yeah.
First base, you're always going to find mashers, and second base it's second. So I'm drafting outfielders often this year, regardless of Acuna. Outside of that, Acuna is my number one. This guy is a monster baseball player, and I just, if he is healthy right now, I can't rationally argue for anyone else to draft above him, like with age, lineup, like what he's able to do talent wise. But I'm obviously, if I'm drafting tomorrow, I'm going to refresh on Google Ronald Acuna to make sure there's no last minute news. And then I'm drafting him, but he's my 1-1.
Yeah. All right. Dap, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, when you go with a top pick type situation, I mean, you can't really hedge that. It's because that's the 101 and your first round is not one of those things that you buy tentatively, right? You kind of just have to buy it and then do. But I mean, that's what waiver wires are for. I'm not going to have a ton of insurance there because you can't replace an Acuna. You're going to have to build a whole thing after the fact. And there's always kind of an outfield bat that comes out of nowhere. You could have a Chase DeLauder that kind of takes off this year, or the Orioles pick one, right? They might just grab another one, but it's not going to replace Acuna, especially considering now, especially that, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but especially that first tier of outfielders, which goes pretty deep, that you get power, speed, runs scored, everything else. I mean, versus before is like, you just get some power or some, you literally have to build like 3 different players to get one Acuna. And I just don't think you can do that. But do I trust him? Man, I mean, he's Acuna. So I'm like, if I have 101, I'm just gonna pick it and live with it because injuries happen and you just kind of roll with it. I'm not gonna draft scared. Don't draft scared.
Yeah. I mean, Acuna. Oh, Joe, I'll get your take first, and then I'll chime in.
You already started. Go ahead.
No, all right. I was gonna say I mean, 73 stolen bases last year is absurd. I mean,
Yeah.
The rest of his career before that, he had 107 combined across 5 years. Now, the other thing I'm looking at here is the fact that he has missed time across those 5 years, except for 2019. That was his only other, fully healthy season, we'll call it, and potentially his best other season out there. I mean, he's had good stats here and there throughout the other seasons with the missed time, but I'm not surprised to see him injured. But this is a blow. But again, the other thing I wanted to point out is that he was the 101 in every single league drafting for the Fantasy Six Pack Series. So that goes to show that he's still got it. He's still the guy that everybody wants to take with that first pick. It's an auto pick, set it and forget it. And you just kind of go with it. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think to kind of did this in the bud. 101, hands down, easy. The only time he wasn't drafted 101 was like right after the news got announced that he had hurt his knee, right? It was the same knee as his ACL. Everybody freaked out, and rightfully so, right? You don't want to pay that price and then have your 101 get knocked out, right? So he got knocked out. I think that the lowest he ever went was like 106 on NFBC. Now he's back. He's already back in the lineup. He's good to go. Look, even if he doesn't run as often, right? Even if he only gets 45 steals, like it's still going to be worth the 101. Like he's in the draft cheat sheet of Fantasy Six Pack. The calculation for the value of players, he had such a wide margin between him and either J-Rod or Bobby Witt, as you know, those two have kind of flip-flopped as the number 2 overall on the sheet, depending on projections. The gap between him and one of those two has been so large, it would take him missing a quarter of the season for him to drop below them. I think that's how far of a gap he has because of how good he was last year. So yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah.
All right. So he's good.
Yeah,
he's okay.
Maybe
it's okay.
All right, cool.
Only
all right.
45 bags.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's only 45.
I could do that. I could do that myself.
How ridiculous is that?
I mean, I guess he'll do 40-40 again this year. Ugh.
What a fucking bum. All right.
What a bum.
Like I said. All right. So another top bat here for the outfield eligibility, but not playing outfield anymore. So excluding Mookie Betts, that would be that guy. The consensus top 5 outfielders include some mix of obviously Acuna, J-Rod, you got Kyle Tucker, you got Corbin Carroll, you got Juan Soto in there. Who are you leaving out of your top 5 and why? Joe, we'll start with you on this one.
It's Juan Soto, and I know the Yankees fan guest is going to hate me on this. I think Juan Soto is awesome, and if this is an OBP or an OPS league in a points league, I'm taking Juan Soto number 2. The only reason why I would take him number 3 is because Betts is going to have all that crazy position eligibility, and that really helps open your draft up. But I think Soto is going to score more points in a points league. But in a 5-category, normal 5-category league, I'm taking Soto out. I'm actually putting Tatis in. You're going to get more speed and generally around the same other stats, if not slightly better in Tatis's favor. Look, Soto is awesome, but he's not stealing bases, and I think that just drops his value just slightly for me in category roto leagues.
All right, good info there. Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, this one was really tough for me because
yes,
I think Julio is my favorite player in baseball, and I love Juan Soto at the short porch now with the Yanks. I think he's going to mash the Yankee Stadium. He also walks a ton, and I agree, Joe, with you about the points league situation, like leaving him out, roto versus points. Like, I don't play any points leagues. I only do roto. So, like, for me, I omitted Corbin Carroll, and that was really tough. The lingering shouldering, like, I don't think he has an issue with it. I think he'll be fine, but his pop compared to all the other players, I thought was the lowest potential, even though his speed is probably the highest potential besides maybe Acuna's. I don't know. Every one of them, I was like, Julio might win MVP. Ronald Acuna is MVP. Tucker is probably the best kept secret in baseball, and I wrote an article about that last year. And then Juan Soto is just like, he's like the shiny new Ferrari I just got as a Yankee fan. I can't not keep him in my top 5 here.
All right, Dap, which one?
This is your own question. So what you got?
Okay. So here's how I would go about it, right? And this is what I was kind of alluding to with the past answer, right? It's the fact that we're looking at all these players and they all give you, except for one, right? Power, speed, pretty good OBP, and average as well. So except for one shining example who doesn't, right? Juan Soto. And it doesn't matter if he bounces back. I mean, every year he's had single digits or around that of stolen bases. He increased his stolen base number just because he had 0 last year. I mean, he had 0 with San Diego and 6 with Washington, but still, that doesn't get. The point is that he goes to 12, great. He should be able to steal more. He's not slow. And yes, great. He increases his power. So let's say he hits, 40 home runs. He's still not helping you in those other areas. Okay, fine. He gets 100 RBIs. That's not that different to me than Corbin Carroll. I mean, yes, the home runs are a little off in the fact that he has 25 last year. So let's say he stays at 25 home runs. You suddenly now are able to still win the stolen base, category. I'm sorry. I love Corbin Carroll. With 54, you're a little off with RBIs. Let's say again, we do Soto at the high end, 130, 140. It's okay, 76 RBIs, but he's scoring 116 runs. So it's, to me, you can't find. I'm not going to go try to find an Asterio Ruiz who's just going to kill me in a whole bunch of other areas. When you have to start looking for speed, especially later on, you're going to lose categories. They're going to be negative category fillers. And for me, I think power is really cheap. You could really kind of bring in a lot of other people that are going to bring up your average or your OBP with some people like our friend over there in the Marlins, who's going to give you kind of an empty average, Luis Perez or OBP, but not kill you anywhere else. A lot of these other players that are going to be, speed only are going to just absolutely murder you. So that's why I'm not leaving this part of the draft without somebody's giving you some power and some speed. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that takes a lot into, like, if you've listened to a lot of our draft strategy shows, you kind of take where, like, early on you need to get the multiple category guys and stay, because you don't want to draft the speed only guys later. As you said, Ruiz is awesome, 70 plus steals, right? Maybe a moderate batting average. Maybe he kind of breaks even for there. And runs scored, sure, he'll be decent, but he also plays for the A's, sadly. So, like, he's going to be limited there, right? But RBI and power, negative value, negative. And he's probably going to be slightly negative in batting average and, too. But later on, your power guys, like you said, you can find power. You can find power with average. You can find power with RBI and run. You can find, like, the one thing you're not going to find later, though, is power with speed. Like that's really hard to find later, unless you just hit the lottery on a few guys. They're out there, but they're tough to find. Yeah. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys for the most part. I mean, Soto.
Yeah, we got this question here from Timothy. Keep hearing about Corbin's shoulder. Is it that serious? I haven't really heard that much about it. I don't really know. So I don't think it's very serious, but I don't know
not
if
sure.
you guys have thoughts.
I haven't heard anything on it either.
Oh,
personally,
I
so.
guess, I could comment on that. So, yeah, I don't think it's a lingering thing. I think that he injured it severely, right? And then he last year missed a little bit of time dealing with the nagging issue. Remember when they were like, he might miss the rest of the season, and then he came back like the next day?
Mhm.
I don't like that. That is what I
I
don't
do, I
like.
do
When
remember that.
an issue that it was serious at one point, and it's not lingering, but it's like in the snap of a finger. I didn't like that at all. And I have him in multiple dynasty leagues. I'm like, I don't know. And just due to the fact that his, obviously his frame, he's not as big as the other guys. So power wise, I just don't see him developing that much more power. And if he does, I see the speed coming away. And that's why I went with Carroll over Soto. But you guys all make fair points. I kind of agree with you guys now. I feel bad about my argument. I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
No, you don't. You're a Yankee
the
through
one
and
thing
through.
I'll say too is, and it shocked the hell out of me until it finally happened. But in that NLCS, Carroll wasn't running. Arizona in general wasn't running in the first like 4 games, I felt like. And then they finally were like, hey, this is what we were good at. We should probably try to go back to this to really get the Phillies off kilter here. And it worked, and it got them to the World Series because they finally decided to run again. But Carroll was not running at all. So I don't know if teams are going to kind of look at that and somehow figure something out with him as far as trying to keep him on, on first or whatever. It's not going to work that well, I don't think, because he's just awesome at stealing bases. But the power does worry me a little bit with him, as far as getting an increase there. So it's between Carroll and Soto for me, but I think I would lean Soto, just because eventually you're going to get bags out of Carroll too. So
yeah, I mean, good luck keeping Carroll on first base. That 99%, the 99th percentile speed. Good luck.
Exactly.
Well, but don't forget the new stolen base rules, right? That were implemented last year. You can only go to first twice before you're not. So I'm sure Carroll's like, please do it, so you're locked out, and I know you can't go back.
Yeah,
he's like,
no, I'm
you're
definitely
like
gone.
thinking about it. I'm already back to the base before the ball
Right.
comes out of your hand.
Yeah.
So sorry. So
All
right, moving on to the next guy. We got the biggest fish in the sea, and that's Mr. Mike Trout. Are you buying Mike Trout this year? He's pretty much at a discount.
I'm only laughing because that's
Brett, what do you think?
The biggest fish in the sea.
That was not written in there. That was amazing ad-libbing. Wow.
The worst.
I actually I like that
time.
joke.
I loved it. That was amazing.
How does nobody get that? Trout fish. Come on.
No, I got it.
We all got it.
The only
AJ
reason I
was
fish
deep.
is to go sit on a boat and drink beer. That's why I go fishing. So anyway.
To answer your question, yeah, I'm buying it on the discount. His ADP, which I saw earlier today, was 58th. So if someone's seeing anything different, sorry. Yeah, Mike, what are we talking about here? Mike Trout, I'm 30 years old. Mike Trout's been the best player in baseball since I've been, around. Yeah, Shohei Ohtani the last few years for sure, but Trout's been around since 13 doing this. I looked at, obviously he's had a few down years in terms of durability, but he was an all-star in 2021, 2022, and 2023, despite missing games. Last year, besides his rookie year, was his worst year in batting average. I think the Angels as a whole were down. It was just like a bad plague around that team last year. I didn't like the vibes. I think they're going to have Shanuel, maybe Zach Neto blossoms into a decent shortstop. They have a few interesting pieces. Yeah, they don't have Shohei. I think Trout could, I know he wants to stay in Los Angeles, but if he plays well, I think he could end up getting moved as well at some point. So yeah, I'm in on Trout, especially if he gets moved to a better team, which I think could happen, but that's crazy. I know that's a hot take, but I've always thought that Trout's going to get out of Los Angeles at some day.
Yeah.
Hottest take.
All right, Dap, what do you think?
I think this is where you could get your power, right? We talked about that earlier. If you went with the Corbin Carroll, this is the thing with Trout is he hurt his wrist last year, right? And we've seen this time and time again that if you hurt your wrist, it's going to really sap your power. Now, it's not like Trout's been the poster boy of health the last couple of seasons either. So if he can stay on the field, he's amazing. He's got zero protection in that lineup now that Ohtani's gone. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what he does there. But he's too good with his bat. He's too good with his eye in the sense of, he's not a free swinger up there or anything of that nature. It's just a matter of his health. And so I think this last season was definitely an anomaly in the sense of, kind of the bottom falling out from Trout, so to speak. But his sprint speed is still up there. He just obviously doesn't steal bases. So it's not like he's slowing down athletically. It's just a matter of obviously staying healthy, which, I mean, again, at this price point, if he's just kind of like where, what we just was stated, then, I'm all over that price.
Yeah. Not quite the bottom feeder catfish. He is still a Trout. Joe?
Yeah. So I've been sorry. I've been burned by Trout the last couple of years, unfortunately. So I'm sort of out on him. I don't trust him to stay healthy.
Out on Trout,
is what
huh?
it comes down to. Yes. Like if you
Like a
remove
contest.
ESPN from the ADP over here on Fantasy Pros, because we figured out that ESPN's ADP comes from points leagues. So theirs is it doesn't match the rest of them. He's actually ADP 49. So not that would make a huge difference, but there's just, I don't know, man. Like, unless you were to get the 2022 Trout where he played 120 games and still hit 40 bombs, man, like last year, you got absolutely decimated by him. You were drafting him still super early because everybody looked at 2022 and went, oh man, like if he could just play through that, like what's it gonna take for the Angels to say, Mike, you're our DH, stop getting hurt? Like, make it happen.
Yeah.
He clearly shouldn't be playing it.
Stupid.
Figure out how to play first base, right? Like that's where guys go to not get hurt, right? I know he's super athletic and should be playing in the outfield. He's amazing out there, but he just gets too hurt.
Yeah.
Too
I mean,
often.
does he want to take a page out of Bryce Harper's book? I mean, that's what he did.
Moving to
He's like-
first. There's the hottest take ever.
It's
You think Trout should be shortstop? I love it.
Yeah. What about the hot corner? Come on. Why not? See how athletic you are. 6 games in.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob's over here saying, Ken Griffey Jr. had a few injury seasons before he returned to form. Could happen for Trout. It could. I mean, look, this. I will say this: the risk is baked into the price for sure. It's just a matter of, are you willing to take it? I mean, if he misses half a season again, it still sucks. Even if you took him in, pick 49. Because you're still, I think when you draft Trout, you think you've got so much more, right? Like you're like, oh man, I got Mike Trout, he's awesome.
Yeah,
but then you lose him, and you're like, oh crap.
I mean,
now what do I do?
early on in his career, obviously 2012, he's 20 years old, so he played 139 games there, but you were getting over 300 average or hovering right around it, except for 2014 with your 287. How dare you? I mean, and he played 157 games, 159, 159. I mean, he was such a consistent force out there, getting steals, helping you out in all the categories. I'm definitely in on trying to get in on the discount if he falls to me. And, I'm a sucker for it because I've never actually owned Mike Trout. And I take that back. I did. And then I think I traded him to you, Joe, at one point. So, or you traded him to me or vice versa. I don't know. But that was the only season. Other than that, I think I'm in for the bounce back and ready to see it. So
awesome.
I like it. All right. Next guys up here. I mean, this is just kind of a general question here. I mean, which outfielders are you guys absolutely avoiding at their current ADP? Joe, we'll open the floor to you first. I mean, what is there any names that are out there that you're just like, nah?
I'm actually going at a guy who's going right around Mike Trout, and it's Nolan Jones for Colorado. I love the 2020, power speed combo. It could be slightly more. I just worry with that batting average and Dap, we did that hitters bust episode. I wrote about the same thing in my top in some other article I did. I forget what it was for saying fantasy six pack now, but just that like he got really lucky last year, right? His BABIP was was crazy high, and when I say crazy high, I mean like he led the league in BABIP. 401. It's insane. Like that's just not gonna happen again. I mean, his expected batting average was 247. He hit 297 last year. So, you know, he's being projected for around like a 265, 267 batting average. If that happens, man, like he's not going to get on base as much. Maybe he doesn't steal 20 bases again. I don't know. Like, I'm just worried that like, everything's going to come crashing down for him. And I'm not willing to take the risk on him when there's a bunch of guys that are going behind him that I trust a lot more. So I'm kind of out on Nolan Jones at his price. Although I will admit it actually has dropped since I initially looked at him. So I think people are starting to figure this out. Early on, his price was very high.
All right. Brett, who are you thinking?
Yeah, I picked a couple guys, but I'll just go with a guy actually near Mike Trout. Are you guys considering Kyle Schwarber an outfield?
Sure.
Outfielder here?
Yeah.
I just
yes.
I can't. The guy obviously hits the ball to the moon, and I get that. Just no steals, horrible batting average. I'm out. I play in all roto leagues. It's too many categories where you see a deficit for the one. And it to me, it just doesn't make sense. At ADP 50, it's really high to get someone who steals you virtually no bags, is going to hit maybe his body weight at 200, and then I don't know how much he's weighing in these days, but
I was going to say, you figure it was 200.
I'm trying to get.
Wow, I'm closer to 200 than he is.
I got to look out for the big guys of America. I'm throwing them some weight, but you know what I mean. Like he's not getting you a batting average. Obviously, his OPS is off the charts. I don't know. I'm just out on Schwarber for this year.
All right, Dap.
Yeah, man, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I love the fact that this is going to be recorded and thrown in my face later on. But at his current price, I'm trying to put all the words I can before I say it. But at his current price, I'm worried. I think there's a lot of just inflated. He's awesome, but Evan Carter to me has a big asterisk next to his name, and it's the big elephant in the room, right? Left-handed pitching. Can he hit it? How well can he do? And he literally talked about it all season, right? This offseason, he said, I know left-handed pitching is an issue. I need to see it more. I need to be exposed to it more. But okay, so what happens, right, throughout the season? Is it a matter of, he does get exposed more and he does awesome, or he gets exposed more and he only becomes a platoon bat? Okay, Evan Carter's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but he's going early second round in a lot of drafts. And at that price, I need somebody who I don't need to be looking at my, at my lineup every day and saying, okay, is he going up against a left-handed pitcher? I got to sit him. I want to have a little bit more of just set and forget for somebody in the second round. And that's the only reason why I think he's easy 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. But again, I think I can get a lot more safety elsewhere in the second round.
All right. Yeah. I mean, looking at the list here, I feel like I just want to stay away from Suzuki. He's going to get you some stats with average is nice to see, but I mean, looking at a steamer, they got him all the way down at 264. Some of the other rankers and projection sites have them up, 270 or above. So if I can get that out of them, that's helpful. And then, 20 plus homers, 20 to 24 maybe. The Cubs aren't a great team, so that worries me a little bit. He's got Bellinger back, so that and Horner's, I guess, is protection. But I don't know. Suzuki's just not. He doesn't wow me for his ADP. I'd be looking elsewhere personally in that range. So.
We have a quick question here. Not super fantasy related, but it's interesting. Is Trout a Hall of Famer? Let's just rapid fire this because I think this could be like a 3-hour long debate if we did this. I'm gonna say yes, but it won't be first ballot.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he would be, unless he returns to form for the next 3 years, 4 years maybe, then he'd be first ballot in my book. But
And if they could win, something would help.
yeah, I mean, if he goes to a contender and produces, then I think that helps his first ballot choice. But I think he is, based on what he's done in his career.
So if he stopped playing right now, right, he would have almost 370 home runs, 940 RBIs, 200 stolen bases, and a career WAR of close to 85.2. That just tells you that if he stopped right now, which obviously he's not, that's insane numbers. And if you just go by the stats, and he's gotten 3 MVPs and a Rookie of the Year. Am I right there? 3 MVPs.
I think so. Yeah.
I think, if he fell off a cliff today and we had to be like, does he go in the Hall of Fame? Yes, I think he absolutely does. But I assume he's going to have a couple more of these years, and he should be a second balloter, no problem.
Yeah, I think he's first. I actually think might be first ballot Hall of Fame, which is crazy.
I would put a first ballot.
Me.
I just, those baseball writers get stupid about first ballot.
I'm just quickly looking at it as an individual. Like, you can't pick where he was that he's an Angel, and obviously he signed that mega contract, which I hated at the time because the Angels have never been an impressive ball club to me. But 13 MLB seasons, 11 times he's been an All-Star. The only 2 times he hasn't been an All-Star is his rookie year at age 19, and then in 2020 he was not an All-Star, but he finished 5th in voting for the MVP that year and won a Silver Slugger.
2020, they didn't have the All-Star game.
Yeah, and then from 2012 through literally 2020, he was a top 5 vote getter in the MVP every single year for 8-9 seasons. That's insane. People don't do that, and in my opinion, Mike Trout, like I said, I don't think he's the best baseball player of my time in 30 years. I don't think you could tell the story of baseball without Mike Trout included in that. And that puts him in the Hall of Fame, as corny as that might sound, but that's my fence for him.
I like it.
Fair enough.
I'm on board. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was first ballot. I don't think he'll get there if, especially if he has a couple more injury plagued seasons, then I think that really hurts his chances.
If he doesn't win a ring or something like that, that's the tough part.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be the deciding factor for the goofball voters. So, but speaking of MVPs, Jordan Walker, I mean, this guy's being drafted like an MVP from candidate last year, and he's almost an afterthought this year. I mean, his ADP right now is 114, which puts him around outfield 29. Brett, are you targeting Walker this year in your drafts?
I'm not. And I really like Walker too. There's a few things I'm weird about, organizations and stuff like that. I don't like, I'm not a big believer in Ollie Marmel down there. I think it's a little crowded between like Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson, Brendan Donovan, Dylan Carlson. And, they all have their individual things that they do well, which really scares me too. They're so polarizing. Like Carlson, elite defender, but he's not the best hitter, but you got to get him in the lineup because he could defend. And then Jordan Walker's bat. He's got to be there as well. So I'm just trying to stay away from the Cardinals this year outside of really like Arenado, because I just didn't know what he's going to do. But that's my take.
All right, Dap.
Yeah, so this question was because of the fact that, we seem to have this thing where we draft and then we're like, he was terrible because he didn't give me an MVP. And so the second year we're just out on him. Jordan Walker didn't put up a scrub season. The problem was we expected, people that were drafting him where they were drafting him when he got all the way up to like top 50 by, right before the season started. They're drafting him like he's going to hit 25, 30 bombs. he was never that guy. He was going to strike out a bunch, but he still had a 276, batting average, and his exit velocity was almost 114 miles an hour, which is 90 plus percentile. So I think the thing is that we're looking at a person that was 21 years old, their rookie year, and still has, elite sprint speed and has great power. Streamer has him projected at 19 home runs and 9 stolen bases. As Frank Amarante put up, he put easy over. I couldn't agree more. And number 140, 150 in drafts. I mean,
Looks
to
like
me,
he's
that
114 right now on Fantasy Pros. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at the last last 10 drafts I was doing. Yeah. Okay. Well, 114. 130 plus, all over it. I think there's definitely a lot of places I'd grab it, still there. So I'm targeting him as a bounce back for sure, but I wouldn't pay anything before pick 130 on him.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, I think if I waited on outfield, and maybe only took like one in the first few rounds there, he'd be somebody I would go after, because I think the potential and the upside is there. I think, we drafted him for the talent last year. It just didn't happen the way everybody expected. The talent's still there, right? So you gotta buy the talent and believe in the talent. And so now, the price is probably where it should have been last year. So I'd be okay with it, but he's not somebody I'm going in the drafts being like, oh man, like I really want to figure out how to maneuver my drafts, to get a Jordan Walker. Like if I don't get a Jordan Walker, like I'll take a Chas McCormick like 6 rounds later and be perfectly happy. Like, like that's the type of thing. It's like there's still a bunch of dudes there that like are okay, but there's also a lot of like landmines in that outfield range too. You're looking at like the Marcelo Zunas, where it's like, yeah, last year was cool, but like, man, the last few years was pretty abysmal. So yeah, good luck. I still think it's okay to take him where he's being drafted right now, even at 114.
Right. Yeah. All right. So we talked about Evan Carter a minute ago. Well, let's bring him back into the fold here and talk about him. We got Chourio and Langford. This is a hype train that has just considerably left Earth's orbit at this point. I mean, we kind of got some points on Carter there, but are any of them worth drafting at their current price?
Why don't you mention what the price
NFBC?
Is? Yeah,
I'm getting to it. Just give me a minute, man. All right. I'm just coming back. I'm coming back into the orbit so I can talk. God. NFBC ADP. This is the minimum pick here. So Carter's at
the min pick is in the parentheses.
Shut up. I'm seeing that. God. Who put a question mark?
I'm not Burgundy.
NFBC ADP for Carter is 112. Chourio is 124. Langford's 104. The minimum pick is 63 for Carter, 85 for Chourio, and 60 for Langford. So, what say you, Dap Scout?
Well, okay. Look, I could easily go back, but I already said everything I need to say about Carter. So absolutely not. Jackson Chourio. Yeah, I mean, no. So, I mean, there's just so many people that can give me power and speed, and guys that I'm hoping are going to give me, 20 seasons like Chourio and Langford. I just don't see why I have to guess at that point, right? That's way too early in a draft to be doing lottery picks. Now, Dynasty all day long, but if I'm doing a roto league, absolutely not. Cannot draft these guys and feel good about it at those prices. Absolutely
not. All right, Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a great question because it all depends. These guys are so polarizing the way people look at them, how high or how low, that you might be able to get them on discount in some drafts. In other drafts, you're like, that guy's a psychopath for drafting that player at 60. Like Langford cannot be a 60th overall player drafted.
Right,
He's too young. That's not saying I don't think the guy could hit the ball a mile.
Absolutely.
That's saying I don't want him at 60.
Right.
But if you see him lingering around, and outfield is, like I mentioned earlier, in my opinion, and I'm hearing this all around, like outfield is weaker this year. Would you guys tend to agree with that, or is that what you're seeing, that like less outfielders than typical that you like?
There's a huge drop off, right?
There is a huge reason why even in the Fantasy Six-Pack series where we only start 4, 3 of my first 5 picks were outfielders.
Yeah.
I realized looking at the board to be like, you know what? I hate shortstop and I hate second base, but there's a lot more of those guys down there that I like than the outfielders. So like, I'm going to take my chances here.
Exactly. So if you wait on outfield and you go like, hey, I'm at the end of the first round and you're not getting one of the top like 8 guys, and you were one of the suckers who drafted Cole or like someone like that. Yeah, I think it's worth it to invest in a Chourio or Langford. Carter, not so much due to the splits, but the Brewers don't just pay anybody. And I think they're one of the smartest organizations all of baseball. So if the Brewers are paying someone, they just traded away Corbin Burns. Listen up if they're paying someone. So Chourio, I'm in on just for that reason alone. And Langford, I just drafted him in a dynasty league. I love Langford. I think he's going to be a guy that the Rangers are going to be forced to play right away.
Yeah. I mean, Joe, what do you think?
You sound like you were going to say something that you forgot about me again.
Prompter. Yeah, I had
look,
to
at their minimum price, absolutely not. Like what that really shows you at NFBC is there's people who have too many teams, and they're just going, "Oh, I'm gonna try to, be different this time and go get Carter early and go get Chourio." Like, what I also love is that I had originally pulled the stats for like the past month NFBC ADP. And Langford was last as far as overall ADP and min pick. I was like, but that doesn't feel right. Langford has all this massive hype and this doesn't really show it. So like, I wonder what happens if I move it back to 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, Langford jumped above both of them. And I was like, oh, there it is.
Now it's making sense.
Like, that's exactly what this question was supposed to show. And like, look, these guys are talented, but I mean, we're doing to them what we did to Jordan Walker last year. Like, do we ever learn our lesson? Apparently not. So, I mean, everybody's trying to chase, the Ronald Acuna, right? A few years ago when he was drafted super high, he felt a lot more can't miss than any of these guys. Like, Chourio's awesome, Langford's awesome, but man, I mean, we thought Walker was going to be the real deal last year, and then he got sent back down for a little bit. Like, come on. I'm not, don't overpay for it, guys.
Yeah. Well, Brett, is there something that somebody just did in spring training? Did you want to mention that? Langford just hit
I literally just got a notification from MLB Home Run Bombs. Langford just hit a grand slam. I think it's his 5th home run.
Boom.
In spring
Move him up to 20 slots.
Top 10. Gonna go to 40.
6 rounds.
You heard it here first. Langford top 10 pick.
Langford or Aaron Judge? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's such a battle. I mean, I'm feeling bad about taking Judge with my first pick now.
You know what? Langford over AJ Cole. I mean, AJ Cole. Sorry, Cole. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, and I will say now.
Oh man, it's all over the place.
No, Brett, knowing that you're a Yankees fan now, did that me picking Judge with that first pick like sting a little? Did you think you were getting him at the 111?
No, I'm weird. I don't like drafting anyone on my team. Like teams I support, I don't like drafting players from those teams. So fast football, I'm a Packers fan. I don't pick Packers typically. I don't like. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's bad juju for me.
So did you take Aaron Rodgers last year knowing, hey, he's not a Packer anymore. I'm all in on this guy. And then you had 4 minutes of glory.
No. I did not trust in the Jets offense, even with Mr. Rodgers. So
good.
Yeah.
All right. Little sidebar in the football.
Oh my gosh, dude! Literally, this is the perfect tweet. I'm sorry. I'm just scrolling through tweets. I just typed in Wyatt Langford, right? Somebody tweeted, "We got Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford for the next few years, man!" Exclamation point. Like, oh, the hype train on both those dudes is just unreal at this point. Like, this is Twitter has gone berserk just in the last 9 minutes. I'm like 50 tweets deep already of this home run alone.
Yo,
It's happened that fast. Oh,
let's go.
it's ADP is skyrocketing. This is unbelievable.
Second overall.
This could have happened at a better time. This is so cool.
I called in a favor. I said throw Langford a meatball right during this time so we can get him on the show.
It's a back corner. Kobe.
All right.
All right. Second to last question here. Every year it seems like teams, hopes are pinned on Max Kepler and Byron Buxton.
Every year.
Then they get hurt. Shocker. I would have never projected that. Are you targeting either of these players? And if so, which round are you grabbing them? Dap, we'll start with you.
So in the 19th round or whatever, 18th round, I think, of a 4 outfield, 2 utility fantasy 6-pack league, I was looking at Max Kepler. I still felt icky even thinking about it. I am so out. Even if they fell to like, I think maybe last 2 rounds, I'd be like, okay, maybe, but that's a super icky, no thank you, don't want to do it type of thing with Max Kepler. Going back to what Joe said earlier about, I'm out on, this particular player because he gets, he got hurt and he hurt my entire team. I'm not even looking at his stats. Like, it's not even that. I've been burned by Kepler and Buxton almost every season as long as I can remember. And I can't do it. I can't jump on the wagon. I can't even press draft. Even if they hit they went Langford-esque and hit just grand slam after grand slam. I can't do it. I don't know what it is.
All right, Joe.
I'm out. I mean, I literally had Kepler in my queue in the fantasy 6-pack series. The last 6 rounds was like, oh, I'll grab him with my last pick. I promise. Nah, I didn't pull the trigger. I just like I can't do it. And Buxton has been on my what list for a long time. I just cannot buy this guy.
Your lover's list.
You know what? At this point, at least when I wasn't taking him a few years ago, when he played, he was proving me wrong, but then he would eventually get hurt, and I was like, all right, I feel better now. So I was right, but he was playing out of his mind when he was actually on the field. Now when he plays, he's not the same guy anymore. It's just not there. So I'm totally out on Buxton. I just don't think he's going to be able to bounce back. He's had too many injuries for him to be that guy. And the stats we have up on the screen, by the way, are the last 3 seasons combined for both of these guys. So it's not good.
Wow. I thought that was career. It's like, you could have sold me on that being career numbers because I was like, yeah, that's all right. 238, games played for Buxton. That sounds about right.
Sounds correct.
Crazy.
Never on the field.
That would be if that was a career game at 238.
All right, Brad, what do you think of these 2 clowns?
So Kepler in fantasy 6-pack league, I think there's 4 outfield, 2 util. I don't even think Kepler got drafted in 28 rounds of drafting. Wow. And then Buxton, I took a look at. He went in the 19th in a lot of leagues that I looked at real quick. He's got all the upside. If you need a flyer on an outfielder, go for Buxton. Outside of that, I think both these guys you could stay away from. But
isn't he utility only too now? Buxton?
I think he is. I don't think
Buxton.
I didn't even know that.
He's utility only now. So that's another reason why I'm done.
Maybe he'll stay healthy. Maybe he'll stay healthy though. Who knows?
Him and Eloy. I was doing a random article earlier this year, and I remember being like, I went back through it, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, what about Buxton and Eloy? And I was like, by the way, fun fact, neither one of those guys are outfield eligible. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
You did mention that. I forgot.
I had no idea until just now. So, yeah.
Yeah, these guys are.
Can't do it.
No. I mean, I've dabbled in the Max Kepler pot of coal, because it's not a pot of gold. It's detrimental to your health, and you don't want to do it. So there is no rainbow between these two players. There is no twins towering. These guys are like a Jenga tower that just falls apart when one
I was
piece
hoping somebody would
gets
comment on
pulled
my
out,
title there.
and it's just a broken
Jeez.
disappointment of not so much fun when you're in a beer garden with a friend of yours that's a farm, that's a brewery, and they have these Jenga towers. So that's all I have to say about that. Play more Jenga, people. It's fun. All right. We are going to go into our final question here. Fake drum roll. All right. Here is our favorite late round sleeper picks for the outfield position this year. Brett, we will start with you as our guest of the night.
Yeah. Are we slipping the slide first, or do you want me to just
We
announce
will.
it?
I'll kind of do it.
Yes.
You.
Wow, look at him. He's producing too.
Yeah,
Man,
exactly.
He's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Where are you, Mike? Come on.
Just do it. I don't want to give away
This
any
is me.
secrets. You know,
This is me.
I want to wait till you guys are ready.
Okay. Well, that's it. No,
You're
I'm
good.
ready.
No,
Yeah.
you
We're ready.
you talk. I'll flip it when you're
I'll
ready.
do a
'cause it'll
real
show
drum
the
roll.
name.
Yeah. So
Brett.
my favorite late round outfield sleeper this year is a Detroit Tiger, and his name is Parker Meadows.
Wow.
I'm very high on Parker Meadows. I love baseball families. That's what we got here. His brother Austin, very solid player when he's on the field. The guy gets on base. He does not strike out as much as others. He walks. He's a rookie last year. And with his defense alone, he has potential gold glove. And we have a guy who wrote this actually today in a piece about, off-season predictions on awards. And he put a dark horse candidate for the AL Rookie of the Year being Parker Meadows. And he mentioned, the gold glove defense that is potentially there will keep him in the lineup alone. He's got 90th percentile sprint speed, and he had a 338 OBP in 2023 at 125 at bats. So it's not the biggest sample size, but over 100 plus at bats as a rookie, steal 8 bases, 19 runs scored, 13 RBIs, and he batted 240. So, and he's going at ADP 309. I think he's a very, big sleeper out there. And if you look at guys, we mentioned him earlier, Estuary Ruiz in like 400 plus, maybe 500 at bats last year, scored 47 total runs. Parker Meadows did 19 in 125 at bats. Think about the upside you could buy here later on in the draft.
All right. I like
I like it.
Joseph, who's your pick?
Yeah. So Brett kind of stole my original one, but I did have a backup plan, thankfully. But
Sorry.
So I'm going with
Don't ever apologize to Joe.
Matt Waldner, Minnesota Twins here. This guy, 76 games last year, 213 at bats, hit 14 bombs. Steals aren't going to be there. Batting average isn't going to be sexy, but look, you hit 14 bombs in 76 games. You got my attention, and I wouldn't, dove into the StatCast numbers. If you do StatCast, 250 minimum plate appearances, he was 5th in barrel percentage at 18.8. Hard hit rate of 48%. I mean, just astronomical power numbers from him. Everybody, a little sneak preview to an article coming out tomorrow morning for Fans Six Pack. It's this year's Jake Berger. This is my pick for this year's Jake Berger, a guy who's going totally under the radar, who's just gonna come out and hit for power. Like if you look at their StatCast numbers, like they're almost identical, with Matt Wallner being slightly better in a lot of places. And he takes walks. So there you go. So he won't absolutely destroy you in batting average like Jake Berger will. So I like him a lot here as a late round target. And I had his ADP up earlier. It's really far. 322 overall. The only worry is that he might be in a platoon, but if you're in these deep leagues, you start in 5 outfielders, a couple utility, like you'll deal with a platoon bat if he's going to be able to get you, 25, 30 bombs possibly.
All right. Jake Berger probably needs to take some more walks because, all the meat. Dap, what you got?
Yeah, Brett, Joe, I'm sorry, guys. There is a right answer, and it's Victor Scott the second. Obviously, you guys are wrong.
The
so
second,
sorry.
you were the third
That's
in your
third.
Well, sorry, it's a second. But anyways, look,
You're a jerk.
I did. He stole.
I put the third because I'm going third. So
Yeah, so he stole 94 bases last year in the minors, but he's not a one-trick pony. In the AFL, he had a 286 average, 804 OPS, 3 home runs, 19 runs scored, and 18 stolen bases. And here's the best part, right? He was right around the 29th ranked prospect in St. Louis Cardinals organization at the beginning of last year, and he made it all the way up to 4th because he hit in 548 at bats. 303 average, 9 home runs, not great, but 63 RBIs, 94 runs scored. And here's the best part: 1 billion stolen bases. No, I'm kidding. He had over 90 stolen bases over that time. Like, look, his proposition making opening day roster is 50-50 at best. But the fact that he got a gold glove in the minors, that he was named an organizational all-star, I expect that he's going to be one of the first call-ups. And because of his glove, if he ever falters, I think he's going to stay up for a while. And if he gets over 100 games, I think he's going to probably be in the top 10 in stolen bases in the league and still have a pretty good OBP and average. So if you need that speed guy that's not going to kill you like Hysteria Ruiz, this is your guy. I think he's a dark horse candidate for Rookie of the Year, especially. I know Chourio is the guy, but Victor Scott the second and the third, he's that good. I just think that he's going to be all over the place. I think he's amazing.
Before we get to yours, AJ, Uncle Ted here saying Harold Ramirez is his deep sleeper. Ramirez is solid. I'll take it.
I like it.
Sleepler.
Not as good as the
Victor Scott the
ADP
second.
308, just like the Ferrari from Magnum PI. Great mustache, great chest hair. I'm going with Mr. Austin Hayes. Obviously, fan of the Orioles, so I got to pull that out. From the chest hair and mustache memorabilia. But, here's a guy who you're getting super late in drafts, possibly undrafted in some leagues, and maybe potentially rightfully so. But if you're interested in a guy who's going to, who's had a 2070 season in the past, that would be 2021, 22 home runs and 71 RBIs. Those are the kind of stats that you look for. That 20-70 split it's hard to find. Not really, but he's going to throw in a couple stolen bases. He's going to catch you some counting stats with runs and RBIs on a strong Orioles team, and he's going to get some dingers too. So, Big Al loves dingers. This guy loves Austin Hayes. Go for it. Do it.
AJ sounds super
Then you will
confident.
be correct.
Pick. Not really.
I am confident with the pick.
Yeah, so Victor Scott the second is still the right answer. Got it.
1, 2, 3.
All right. Okay.
All right. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Brett, we want to thank you once again for coming on tonight and joining us. Great conversation as always, and awesome to put a face to the name for the sniping in the F6P draft. Tell us what you got going on and where we can find you and your stuff on the socials.
Yeah, absolutely. No, pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for having me. This was awesome and hope to do it again sometime. We'll have to get you guys on over at the Skipper's View.
Yeah.
So you can find me at the Skipper's View website, just the Skipper's View. You can find me on Twitter at SkipsViewBrett. Honestly, just what's going on? I'm a massive baseball fan. It's baseball season, so just looking forward to that. And AJ, I'm looking forward to competing you in the same division, the Fantasy Six Pack league this year. It should be interesting. But Dap Scout, Joe, always a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me though today. It was awesome.
I got good news to send you off on, Brett. Garrett Cole does not need Tommy John surgery, at least for now, per source.
Yes.
All right.
That's awesome.
Nice.
No, he needs Stephen John surgery, but that's different.
I need Carlos Rodon to just turn into Justin Verlander for the next 2 months though.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah,
man.
right.
Well, that's great news. I hate seeing anybody out because of injury. That's awesome. All right.
Indeed.
Well,
All right, Brett.
Indeed.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. Well, yeah, like you said, we'll have to do it again. This was a lot of fun. So have a good night, man, and we will talk to you later.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Better, man.
All right. So next week, I actually have the sheet up for once. We're bringing in Dap's favorite. I mean, if he gushed over other guests, this one's gonna be super awkward. Mike Kurland gonna be here
my
next
texting
week
buddy.
to help talk about the spring training position battles that have
Oh
been
my
going
God.
on, what he's noticed over there, obviously ADP movers because of a lot of that, what's right, what's wrong with some of those. Mike does
Everything
a
in both.
phenomenal job with keeping up with all the spring training lineups and such. So I love bringing him on right before the season starts and covering a lot of that news and that last quick prep right before the last draft weekend. I know there's games on the 20th. It's one game. Can we stop doing these international series?
Nope.
Like
Nope.
hockey does it.
Stop.
These
It's all
are
about
stupid.
money. Stop.
These are stupid.
Close
Stop
out.
it. All right. That is it, folks. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.